Hello everyone, welcome to another Cashflow Friday. As you all know, I took a bit of a break last week because I was not in the country. Well, I was in the Channel Islands, but whatever. Anyway, this week has been fantastic. It's making a difference and securing the lives of business owners that need it the most. I focus on debt restructuring this week. I've been to see a new client who has some difficulties around debt problems that he's got, and we're going to be working together very soon, where I literally sit down, negotiate with his creditors, and find a win-win situation to allow him to carry on running the day-to-day business while I get on with dealing with his stressful items, which leads me on to a private group of people that I help. A lot of you know of Lloyd Gilmore. Him and Shoshana Gilmore every Thursday without fail run a charity where they go into London, Leicester Square, Covent Garden, St Martin's Lane, and sit down and give out food, give out clothes, give out all sorts of things that these individuals need, and I can't I can't implore enough that what Lloyd and Shoshana both do is fantastic. They do it without fail all year round. Every Thursday they go out and always giving out food to those that need it. They have many friends in the streets, and even with the time that I have spent going out with the couple, a lot of the people that are on the streets get to see me and know me by my first name, and we have a chat. But yesterday was the first time in around about 6 to 8 weeks since I'd been out, and a couple of them quit saying, "Ron, we haven't seen you in ages. Where have you been?" Why do I do this debt restructuring stuff? Why do I go out and help business owners who struggle? I mean, there is a paradigm between what happens if you don't have a process in place to tackle it. Now, I always like to help businesses to find a win-win solution, and the worst case that you can do, the worst thing that you can do is not take any action. Collect the brown envelopes, put them on one side and think, you know what, they're just going to go away. They're not. For another client of mine last week, we had made some negotiations and arrangements with some creditors. We had put an offer out to one of them, and it wasn't good enough because the debt balance is too high. So as a consequence, an enforcement officer turned up. This obviously created mixed emotions of upset, tears, and other things of anger and resentment within the business, where this particular client was, "I've had enough, I can't do any more, I'm just running." And one thing he did say to me is, "Ron, it's thanks to your ongoing presence and helping me through this that I'm able to thank you, that you've done a lot for me, because prior to you coming along, I had no one. I literally had no one. I didn't know who to turn to or where to go, but it's thanks to you that you've shown me a way forward to be able to pick myself up and run forward with my business." Which, if I allude back to yesterday is this charity, or it's not a charity per se, it's a private group whereby people make donations for clothes and food, etc., and then it's dished out on the streets a lot. But it's such a funny paradigm in the sense that on the one side, if you don't take action, you will end up homeless. And speaking to people on the street, the biggest thing that I found was mental health is such a huge factor. if you don't do anything with your mental health, you will just spiral out of your control. You know, be it you take to drink, be it you take to drugs, whatever the case may be, they've got nothing to look forward to. As a business owner, all I ask is this: please, 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 don't let that brown envelope fall through your door, and don't put it to one side. I've had this loads of times whereby business owners are sitting there and they're looking at that brown envelope, or they're looking at the letter which says strictly private and confidential. They're afraid to open it. Sit down with a friend, sit down with your partner, your wife or your husband. Don't hide things from them, because they'll find out sooner rather than later. If you're afraid to do it in front of your partner, then get a friend. Sit down with your friend. Open it together. What's the worst that could happen? And if in doubt, speak to your accountant, because your accountant might know a specialist like myself to go out and help business owners, whether you're vulnerable or you're suffering from some sort of anxiety, or you've just got too much going on. At the end of the day, it's best to tackle it. I mean, look, what's the news this week? Forget Brexit, that's a complete different topic. But Thomas Cook, they went bust. What went wrong? You know, all sorts of questions are coming out. They didn't care about their customers. What was it? I can't remember, 150,000 or 600,000, I can't remember the numbers, of holiday makers stranded abroad. Wow. I mean, if it weren't for the Civil Aviation Authority, or was it ABTA, that brought them all back in. But Thomas Cook, a well-known British brand name, just going bust. Why? Because they didn't have the processes within the business to be able to pay the suppliers. Therefore, the loans were called in. They couldn't make a deal, even if they did try at the last minute. It had gone on far too long that the creditors had lost confidence in their management. When you're working with me, I ensure that all your creditors are kept up to date and communicated with, because without a process, without some sort of procedure, you're just burying your head in the sand and not getting anywhere. So, as you always know, I'm looking for introductions to accountants, bookkeepers, IFAs, or any business owner that you know could do with my help. Times are uncertain. A lot of the big business players in the market are slowly going downhill, and there's a ripple effect across the industry which is affecting a lot of businesses. I know for a fact that I can make an improvement to your bottom line by negotiating with the suppliers on your behalf and making sure that your suppliers are getting paid on time. So thank you very much for listening to another warm episode of Cashflow Friday. Until next week, see you soon. Have a good weekend. Thanks.